There are 8 children that are deceased. I can't be strong for you. I think about the mother and what this family has lost. I think about this community and what this community has lost. And I don't have the words to give you, and I'm sorry.
We did have a chance to talk to a daycare owner who says she knew the suspect and the children. Here's what she had to say about the suspect.
You could see in his eyes, nothing behind the eyes, dead behind the eyes, no soul, NPC, non-player character. He didn't have one.
Before most people had even started their day, gunfire shattered the silence of a neighborhood in Shreveport. Within minutes, police would uncover a scene almost impossible to comprehend. 8 children, all between the ages of 3 and 11, had been shot inside homes just blocks apart. Investigators quickly realized this wasn't a random act of violence. It was a domestic crisis that had escalated into one of the deadliest family tragedies the country has seen in years. When officers arrived, they weren't responding to just one scene. They were walking into multiple locations, each connected by the same unfolding violence. The shooting had started inside a home, where a woman, later identified as the suspect's wife, was critically wounded after being shot in the face during an early morning confrontation. From there, the violence escalated rapidly. The gunman moved between nearby houses, targeting children, many of whom were still asleep at the time. By the time the chaos ended, a total of 11 people had been shot. 8 of them were children, all under the age of 12.
Tonight at 10, Louisiana is in mourning after a mass shooting takes the lives of 8 children. Police say 7 of them were gunned down by their own father. New tonight, police have released the names of the 8 innocent lives that were taken away too soon. Their ages range from 1 to 11 years old. The suspect has been identified as 31-year-old Shamar Elkins. Police say he stole a car and led police on a chase. He was shot during an officer-involved shooting and died on the scene. WDS reporter Jasmine Franklin is in Shreveport tonight with more on how the community is reacting, the grief they're going through, and the latest on this investigation. Jasmine.
Neighbors here in Shreveport say they're heartbroken after hearing gunfire from a shooting that killed 8 children inside this home on West 79th Street. According to police, right now, a growing memorial sits outside of the home with flowers and teddy bears there, remembering the young lives lost. Emotional neighbors turning to their faith, joining hands in prayer.
This family and this community needs you. I need you. Because how do we get through this?
Uplifting a Shreveport family after a domestic dispute inside this Cedar Grove home.
My heart is saddened. It has brought me to my knees.
SPD says Shamar Elkins is the suspect who fatally shot 8 children Sunday morning. 7 of them were reportedly his own kids. According to officers, their ages range from just 3 to 11 years old.
The mother of the children was also shot and had very serious injuries, although we are hopeful she will recover. There's another female that was in this residence that has life-threatening injuries. We are hopeful that she will pull through.
The crime scene spanning across multiple locations in both Caddo and Bossier parishes. Officers say Elkins shot the first victim, an adult woman on Harrison Street. He then traveled to a home on West 79th Street, killing the young children.
This is real, and this is the result when someone snaps.
During the incident, a 13-year-old boy was reportedly also injured while running away from gunfire and jumping from the roof. He is expected to recover. After fleeing the scene, SPD says Elkins carjacked a man at gunpoint nearby before leading police on a chase ending in Bossier City. That's when officers shot and killed the suspect.
Need to stand together and fight for what is right. This is nothing but pure evil.
City leaders are expected to share more updates Monday morning, and a prayer service is scheduled for later this week. Reporting in Shreveport, I'm Jasmine Franklin. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. The mayor of Shreveport sent out a statement saying, quote, "Shreveport is not an island. We are connected, and in moments like this, that connection must mean something. It must mean compassion. It must mean awareness, and it must mean action."
I don't know what people think in the crevices of their mind to want to harm another human being, let alone that of children who have their whole life ahead of them. From what I've learned about this incident is that it's domestic in nature that makes it even more horrific for all the fighting that we do as it relates to this. And maybe you can stand strong with this, but I can't without shedding tears of traumatic pain. I pain and I grieve for this family. I grieve for the lives that are lost, and I'm asking you to please utilize every resource that the sheriff has brought forth now when you know that these situations occur. We cannot be and make this a joke. This is not a freaking joke. This is real, and this is the result when someone snaps. So I'm gonna ask the community, along with prayer, with every mental health consultant, counselor that is out here, this family and this community needs you. I need you. Because how do we get through this? How do we get to the next level? It is real and this is raw. And these are the tragedies when there are domestic violence or domestic disturbances in our community.
What began as a domestic dispute had turned into a multi-scene mass killing, one that police would later describe as overwhelming in scale and impact. Before we get into the details, we'd like to welcome you to our channel, True Crime Diaries, where we break down real cases, shocking crimes, and the hidden details behind the headlines. If you find these stories insightful, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new case. These are real events and real lives affected. So stay with us as we get into today's case. At the center of this case is 31-year-old Shamar Elkins, a man whose life, on paper, followed a familiar path until it didn't. He had spent years in the Louisiana Army National Guard, serving from 2013 until 2020 as a support specialist, before returning fully to civilian life. Outside of the military, he was working a regular job and raising multiple children across 2 households, something relatives say had become increasingly complicated in recent months. But there were warning signs in his past. In 2019, he was convicted in a weapons case after firing a handgun during a road rage incident near a school, an offense that resulted in probation. In the weeks leading up to the shooting, people close to him described a noticeable shift. He had reportedly been dealing with emotional distress, including ongoing relationship issues and an impending court appearance tied to his separation from his wife. Family members also said he had spoken openly about struggling mentally, expressing feelings of being overwhelmed and unable to cope with what he described as dark thoughts. Despite these concerns, there had been no confirmed history of domestic violence reported to authorities before this incident. And to those who knew him casually, nothing seemed to suggest what would happen next. The victims in this case were not strangers connected by coincidence. They were part of the same extended family, spread across 2 nearby homes in Shreveport. 8 children lost their lives that morning, ranging in age from just 3 years old to 11. They included 3 boys and 5 girls, many of them siblings who had grown up together in closely connected households. 7 of the children were confirmed to be the suspects' own sons and daughters. The 8th child was a relative, part of the same family network that often spent time together. Authorities later released their identities, revealing just how young they were. Jayla, age 3, Shayla 5, Kayla and Layla, both 6, Mark Hayden 10, Soraya 11, Kadarian 6, and Braylon 5. Investigators say most of the children were inside a single residence when the shooting intensified, highlighting how concentrated and devastating the violence became within one space. The impact extended beyond those who died. 2 women, both connected to the children as mothers, were critically injured but survived, while at least 1 child managed to escape and call for help. What makes this part of the story especially difficult to process is the closeness of the victims, not just by blood, but by everyday life. These were children who shared homes, routines, and family bonds, all shattered within a single morning. The sequence of events began in the early hours of April 19th, just before sunrise in the Cedar Grove neighborhood of Shreveport. At around 5 to 6 a.m., the first shots were reported inside a home on Harrison Street, where a woman, identified as the suspect's wife, was critically wounded during what investigators believe was a domestic confrontation. After that first shooting, the situation escalated quickly. Authorities say the suspect left that location and drove a short distance to another residence nearby. At a second home on West 79th Street, the most devastating part of the killing unfolded. Inside that residence, 8 children were shot and killed within a short span of time. Many of them were still inside the house when the attack happened. Police later confirmed that several of the victims were likely asleep when the shooting began, making the attack both sudden and overwhelming. Amid the chaos, at least one child tried to escape by climbing onto the roof of the house. That child survived the fall and was able to alert authorities, becoming a key witness to what had just happened. As officers began piecing things together, they realized this was not confined to a single address. The violence had spread across multiple nearby locations, at least 3 to 4 separate scenes within the same neighborhood. After the shootings, the suspect fled the area. Investigators say he forcibly took a vehicle, carjacking a driver, as he attempted to escape. Law enforcement quickly tracked the vehicle, leading to a pursuit that extended beyond Shreveport into neighboring Bossier City. The timeline came to an end when officers confronted the suspect during the chase. An exchange of gunfire followed, and the suspect was killed at the scene, bringing the rampage to a close. From the first reported gunshot to the final police confrontation, the entire events unfolded within a matter of hours, leaving behind multiple crime scenes, unanswered questions, and a community trying to understand how it all happened so quickly. As investigators began to piece together what led to the tragedy, one detail remains consistent across reports. This was not a random act of violence. Authorities have described the incident as a domestic-related shooting, connected to a deeply strained family situation involving separation and ongoing conflict between Shamar Elkins and his wife. Family members and investigators indicate that Elkins and his wife were in the middle of a separation, with a court appearance reportedly scheduled the following day. That timeline has led investigators to focus heavily on the possibility that emotional distress surrounding the breakup played a central role in the escalation. Mental health concerns. In the days leading up to the incident, relatives described him as emotionally unstable and overwhelmed, reportedly struggling with intrusive thoughts and severe distress tied to his personal life. Some accounts from family members suggest he had recently expressed suicidal ideation and spoken about being unable to cope with his mental state. Those close to him later recalled moments that, in hindsight, appeared concerning: withdrawal from normal routines, emotional volatility, and statements reflecting despair about his relationship and personal future. On the day of the attack, investigators say the violence followed a rapid escalation after a domestic confrontation, suggesting a trigger moment tied directly to family conflict. Records also show Elkins had a prior firearms-related conviction from 2019 involving reckless discharge of a weapon during a dispute, raising questions about earlier behavioral warning signs. Despite the growing picture of emotional and relational strain, officials have not confirmed a single definitive motive. Instead, the case is being treated as a combination of domestic conflict, psychological distress, and unresolved personal crisis, all converging at the same point in time. What makes this case especially difficult for investigators is that many of the warning signs, while visible in hindsight, did not result in any formal intervention before the violence occurred, leaving a critical question behind: how many signals were missed along the way? In the hours after the shooting ended, Shreveport was left dealing with one of the most devastating domestic tragedies in its recent history. Multiple crime scenes were taped off across the Cedar Grove neighborhood as investigators worked to reconstruct a sequence of events that stretched between several homes and a police pursuit into Bossier City. Residents described waking up to sirens, helicopters, and emergency alerts as law enforcement flooded the area before sunrise. By mid-morning, the scale of the loss became clear: 8 children dead, multiple survivors injured, and a suspect killed following a police chase. 2 adult women survived the attack, but suffered critical gunshot injuries and were rushed to hospital for emergency treatment. A teenage boy who escaped by jumping from a rooftop also survived, despite sustaining broken bones during his escape. That evening, community members held a prayer vigil to honor the 8 children who lost their lives, standing together in silence, prayer, and shared disbelief. Videos from the scene showed residents embracing one another, many visibly shaken, as candles lit up the area where police had only hours earlier worked the crime scenes. Local and state leaders issued swift statements of condolence, describing the incident as one of the most devastating tragedies the region has faced in recent memory. Louisiana officials, including Governor Jeff Landry, expressed sympathy for the victims' families and emphasized the need for community support in the aftermath.
I don't know how to feel. I don't know how to act because I've lost 8 parts of me.
That man there, Troy Brown, the uncle of 7 of the children, officials say were shot and killed by their own father in Shreveport.
Family members say they are still trying to wrap their heads around how a father could kill 8 children. Investigators have identified 31-year-old Shamar Elkins as the gunman. He's the father of 7 of those 8 children killed. Elkins, who you see on your screen right here, is also accused of shooting his wife and another woman, both of whom were sent to the hospital. Investigators say police shot and killed Elkins after he stole a car and led them on a pursuit. Now, court records show Elkins and his wife were in the middle of a divorce, and they were due in court Monday of this week. The uncle of the children who died, who you just heard from there, says he's been left devastated by this mass shooting.
These were 8 babies, precious babies, babies that I took care of, helped take care of, helped raise daily, on a daily basis. So no, I'm not okay. I'm never gonna hear my nieces say, "Gunkle, can I get a nana? Gunkle, you going to work? Gunkle, are you okay?" I'm never gonna hear that again.
Devastating to hear there. Governor Jeff Landry has announced that his wife's loved ones foundation will pay for all of the children's funeral cost. The news came after the governor traveled there to Shreveport to give his condolences to the family and the community.
And it does come as investigators in Shreveport release new details about a timeline leading to and following Sunday's massacre. Shreveport police say that the first call came in at around 5:55 Sunday morning from one of Elkins' children, telling them that they had escaped to the roof of the house and that a man inside had been shot. Police responded by 6:07, the very time a second shooting took place at a second house. By 6:29, investigators say they had Elkins cornered, and they confirmed multiple victims, Elkins' children, killed by 6:43. Shreveport police say by 7:03, Elkins was dead.
Working over there. Keep working.
As soon as I heard the news yesterday of the tragedy that occurred yesterday morning, I knew that the only hope for the community is to see and feel the love that only the cross, which Jesus can give them. And he will heal their hearts and prepare them to be able to mourn properly through this whole thing, and he'll help heal their hearts how long ever it takes.
But in prayer, dear Heavenly Father, God, we come to you now, Father, as a family of faith and believers here in the Shreveport, Bossier, and surrounding areas. God, we know you as never before, God. Oh, God, the bowed down head, God. Oh, God, those who, oh, God, are dealing with mental anguish.
All we can do now is bring awareness to domestic violence, to try to stop it in its roots, to make sure people are aware of all the resources surrounding domestic violence, and don't tolerate any form of domestic violence, because if you do, it's going to continue to grow and ultimately result in lives being lost.
About it in the news. I took the cross there, and I was there the very next day. I was there for about 2 or 3 days with the cross.
We want to thank you and give you glory God blessing each and every one here, and thanking you, Father, for this life.
So I want to extend to you the invitation for Christian.
They're struggling, trying to make their ends meet, pay their bills, the utility, the gas, daycare, and oftentimes they don't have resources for mental health services. They always cutting to serve what people really need it. They cut Medicaid, they cut the poor. We got to put some millions and millions of dollars to impact our black community and the brown community that are suffering in America. Everybody's not going good.
Residents describe the neighborhood as normally quiet and family-oriented, making the violence especially difficult to comprehend. Many who lived nearby said they were awakened by sirens and helicopters, only realizing the scale of the tragedy as the morning unfolded. Beyond the immediate grief, the incident sparked wider conversations across Louisiana about domestic violence prevention and access to mental health support. Community advocates have since called for stronger intervention systems for families in crisis, noting that tragedies like this often unfold after periods of escalating domestic tension. In the days following the attack, Shreveport remained visibly shaken, a city grieving together, trying to make sense of a loss that touched nearly every corner of the community. As the investigation continues, officials have emphasized that the case is still being actively reviewed, with detectives working to fully reconstruct the sequence of events and confirm every detail across the multiple scenes involved. What remains clear is that the incident began as a domestic dispute and rapidly escalated into a multi-location shooting that left 8 children dead and several others injured before ending in a police confrontation. For the families affected, the focus has now shifted from understanding how it happened to coping with the aftermath, hospital recoveries, funeral arrangements, and the long process of grief. Authorities have also reiterated that there were no prior public warnings that predicted an incident on this scale, despite earlier signs of personal and domestic strain in the suspect's life. As the city of Shreveport moves forward, community leaders continue to call for support services, trauma counseling, and stronger intervention systems for families experiencing domestic conflict. In the end, what remains is not just a case file, but a community marked by loss, searching for answers that may never fully explain how an ordinary morning turned into one of the most devastating tragedies in its history. That concludes today's case, but the story doesn't end here. There are still countless voices unheard, stories hidden in the shadows, and truths yet to be uncovered. Here at True Crime Diaries, we are committed to digging deeper, presenting the facts, honoring the victims, and keeping their memories alive. If this story resonated with you, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.